What's up everybody, Dan here. Thanks so much for joining in for another video. So today I am pleased to be giving you my review of Thrustmaster's fairly new budget H pattern shifter, the TH8S. Now before we get too far into this review, I want to make it abundantly clear that Thrustmaster did send me this shifter out to review for you guys for free. But they did not pay me any money and they had absolutely no input on what I say in this review. All my opinions here are my own and they will not see this video before you guys do. Alright, if you're new here, here's a quick rundown of how I typically like to do my reviews. I try to keep all my reviews as quick and to the point as possible. First, I'll give you a brief description and some specs of the product. Then I'll give you the pros and the cons, and then I'll finish it up with my final thoughts and let you know whether or not I think it's a good value for the price. So this TH8S is basically the little brother of Thrustmaster's flagship shifter, the TH8A, which has been around for a while. They are very similar, so you will probably hear me reference the TH8A quite a bit in this review. But to keep things simple, from here on out, I'm actually going to refer to the TH8A just as the 8A, and the new TH8S just as the 8S. That way I can hopefully avoid any unnecessary tongue twisters going forward. So as I said, this new shifter is very similar to the original 8A. They actually have a lot of similarities, but there are also some key differences that help the 8S fit into a much lower price point. The 8A, which has been in Thrustmaster's lineup for a very long time, is a fantastic shifter. In fact, I've had two of them in the past. But it is relatively expensive, especially now that it's becoming old tech. And it comes in at $200 US. So at this point, I really do think Thrustmaster made the right move adding in an additional budget shifter to their lineup. So this new 8S comes in only at about 1/3 of the price of the original 8A. So what I was asking myself when I was testing this product is, does this 8S offer at least 1/3 of the performance and the value of the 8A? And now I'm going to dig into the details and tell you what I found out. So let's jump over to some quick specs and info here on this new shifter. So the price of the 8S comes in at $70 US, so I think it's priced pretty well. Just like the 8A, it also has a total of 8 gates. It has 7 forward gears and 1 reverse gear, with reverse being all the way over to the right and down. Now, of course, that's just how it's labeled as default on the cover, and you can ignore that if you want to, and you can map any of the 8 positions however you want. Dimension-wise, it's just about the exact same shape as the 8A, but the difference here is that it's primarily made of plastic so that it can fit into this cheaper price point, where the 8A is primarily made of higher quality materials like metal. Like all products, everything has some pros and cons, so we're going to jump over to those now, and we're going to start off with the good stuff and talk about some pros. First pro is that it comes with a built-in clamp-style mounting system that can easily mount directly to a desk, wheel stand, or a full rig. It doesn't matter what you're using to race, this will easily attach to whatever you're using. The next pro here is actually a big one, and that's that it's compatible with Xbox, PlayStation, and PC, and it comes with both a USB cable for PC and a DIN cable for use with the consoles. On PC, it's going to work as a standalone input device using the supplied USB cable, so that means on PC, it can be paired with any wheelbase or pedal set from any manufacturer on the market. On the console, on the other hand, it will need to be plugged into a compatible Thrustmaster wheelbase with the console of your choice using the supplied DIN cable. Next pro here is the feel of the shifting can be adjusted to your liking by a tension screw that's found on the side of the shifter, and you can dial it in to your preferred stiffness and feel. This is very similar to the exact same tension screw that is found on the 8A shifter as well. Next pro is, despite its cheaper build materials, it still actually looks pretty cool. Thrustmaster often makes their budget equipment look pretty nice, and this shifter is no exception. It definitely looks more expensive than it actually is. Next pro on the list here is it actually has a cloth boot built in that is under the gate, so you won't necessarily see this most of the time, but it is under there, and what it does is it helps to keep the internals and the mechanics free of any dust or debris, and that in theory should help with long-term reliability of the shifter. Likewise, there's also a sliding latch at the rear where you actually plug in the data cables, and what it does is it closes off the connection that you're not currently using, which again should keep that free of dust and debris and also help with long-term reliability. And the last pro here, and probably the most important one, is simply that it works well and it totally gets the job done. Yes, they do use some cheaper materials, but even still, I mean, it absolutely is going to work great as an H pattern shifter, especially if you're looking for one in the budget market. All right, like most products on the market here, there's also going to be some cons, and I want to point some out to you here in this review. So the first con here is that the throws themselves don't feel particularly realistic. But to be fair, that's pretty typical with most shifters that you're going to find at this price point. And honestly, without adding mods to the 8A, it doesn't feel that realistic right out of the box either. But I just did want to throw it in as a con because some people are going to maybe not like that it doesn't feel just like what an actual manual transmission would feel like in a real car. So next con I want to talk about is that this cannot be hard mounted to a rig with bolts. Here on the 8S, the built-in screw clamp system is the only option you have for mounting this, whereas the original 8A had two options. You could use a similar clamping system, but you could also hard mount it with bolts. I really do wish that they had that option here, but again, I totally understand why they didn't include it because it's part of the cost saving here. So it is a con, and I wanted to note it, but it's up to you whether or not that's going to be a deciding factor for you. Next con here, and this may be a big one for some people, it's not really for me, but I wanted to list it anyways, is that the 8S cannot be used as a sequential shifter, whereas with the 8A you can switch it over to a sequential. But to be fair here, switching the 8A over to a sequential is kind of a pain, and it honestly doesn't really perform that great as a sequential anyways. So personally, I'm not really that bothered that it's missing that feature here on the 8S because I didn't really use it that much with the 8A either, but it is, however, a difference to note that I wanted to let you know between the two shifters. So just to be clear, the 8A can be also used as a sequential, whereas the 8S, this new one, cannot. There is no option for a sequential here on the 8S. The next con, I believe, is going to be a durability issue in the long run. So the 8S has metal on plastic contact points, which could prove to be a potential problem in the future. So the gates here are plastic and the shaft itself is metal. So there's a potential for the gates to wear out or even break altogether in time. This will likely happen at a faster rate if you're the type of person that shifts aggressively also, so just keep that in mind. These same contact points on the 8A are both metal, which in theory I think would be more durable in the long run, and both of the 8As that I've had in the past lasted a very long time, and even when I sold them, they were still working completely properly. Now, I'm not saying that the 8S is going to break. I'm just saying there's the potential that it could because you've got metal smashing into plastic. And again, in theory, that is a recipe that could cause wear and tear down the road. So the next thing I want to talk about that is a con here is that it is not compatible with Ricmotech mods. So you may not be aware of these, but there are two really great mods made by Ricmotech that take the 8A shifter to an entire new level when it comes to mechanical shifter feel. I've actually reviewed both these items in the past, and they are going to be the short throw shifter mod and the realistic shifter mod. They're pretty inexpensive. They actually take the 8A, like I said, to another level and make it feel a lot better. Now, I did reach out to Ricmotech prior to making this review to see if these were actually compatible with the 8S, and unfortunately they told me they were not, and at this time they don't have anything in the works for the 8S, but hopefully at some point they will, or at least some manufacturer will offer something similar, because it is a game changer for the 8A and it would be lovely to have the same products for the 8S. But at the time of this review, they are not available, so I wanted to make you aware of that and let you know that that is a con. Okay, so the last con here, and probably the most annoying con, is that it's not designed easily to swap out the shift knob. I think that's probably done because they want the shift knob to remain as lightweight as possible for long-term durability, and probably also to keep warranty claims down to a minimum. I can only assume that the heavier the shift knob is on the 8S, the more likely it would wear down and damage the plastic gates over time. So that's probably why they've done this. Now, it's certainly not impossible to remove and swap out the shift knob here. Just do one quick Google search and it will kick back loads of videos of people removing the stock plastic knob and installing a new one. But just know that Thrustmaster does not want you to do this, and it will likely void the warranty, so you're going to want to do this at your own risk. The 8A, on the other hand, is designed to easily change out the shift knob, and it is compatible with most aftermarket options. Again, it can be done with the 8S, but it will take more effort to get it done. and again, you could void your warranty doing it. So with the pros and cons out of the way, let's move into my final thoughts here. So at the beginning of this review, I said the question that I wanted to answer was, does the 8S offer at least 1/3 of the performance and value that the 8A does? And my short and sweet answer here is absolutely yes, it does. It is actually really good for the price. In fact, I think it's closer to more like 2/3 of the performance of the 8A, which makes that $70 price tag even more enticing. And to be completely honest here, guys, even though I've owned two TH8As in the past and I was really happy with both of them, at this point now, with the TH8S available, the only way I would truly recommend you pay the price premium for the TH8A is if you absolutely had to have the ability to switch it to a sequential. If not, I think the TH8S is by far the better value. And honestly, if you really must have a shifter that can do both, my recommendation would be to increase your budget a little bit and go with something like the Fanatic Club Sport shifter that actually does both well, because the sequential mode in the 8A really, again, is not that great. So at $70, in my opinion, most if not all of the TH8S's shortcomings can really be overlooked. No, it's not perfect. Yes, it's made out of primarily plastic, and yes, it's stupid that they don't want you to remove the shift knob, but man, it's $70. And at $70, in my opinion, it's really a rocking good deal for a solid H-pattern shifter. So there you have it, folks. That was my review of the Thrustmaster TH8S shifter. If you found this review helpful, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing. And as always, guys, I appreciate everyone taking the time to watch my videos and my reviews. So thank you very much, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. We'll see you later.